Julian here. Today I'm a little bit sick, but I'm gonna be showing you how to make music like Rufus Du Sol. Now, I may be pronouncing that wrong, but I'm pretty sure I'm pronouncing it right. So let me know in the comments. And I just want to say before I start this video, you can get the project file and MIDI and samples and presets and all of that kind of stuff for this video in the description. It's just $5 on my Bandcamp. I'd really appreciate it. It helps me out a lot. And yeah, thank you so much, everybody. So now I'm gonna actually show you the song. So what we have here is this little 4-bar loop. You already heard it in the intro. And I'm gonna show you the synths first. So the first one here is this bass sound. It's just a simple little like saw bass. All it is its operator. I turned the FM algorithm to this one, which basically just means that all 4 of these are playing in parallel instead of doing FM. So really, you could do this with any synth. I just chose operator because I kind of like the filter for these kind of sounds. So what it is it's this saw wave. I set the envelope like this, so it's just a little pluck. And then there's this little sine wave as well on here, which I didn't mess with the envelope at all. I just wanted to beef it up a little bit because I like saw wave bass sounds, but sometimes the saw wave on its own can be a little bit too thin, so I wanted to add that on there just to give it a little bit more beef. And then after that, I just have this filter, which is just doing this, just like a little pluck sound. I mean, you can tell what it is. The envelope is up, and then I have the envelope set like this to go with this envelope to make it, yeah, like a nice pluck. And then after that, I just have it sidechained to the kick. Pretty simple. With these kind of bass sounds, it's really more about letting the synth do the work, and the notes as well. But letting the synth do the work and like not putting too much processing on, because you want to let this synth breathe and just kind of sound like how it sounds naturally. And yeah, after that, I have this little brassy lead sound that I made. Sounds like this on its own. And all this is it's a saw wave, an analog with a filter, like a low-pass filter, which just has this sort of like attack slope kind of thing to just go like, wow. Yeah, you can kind of figure out what it is. And then I set the amplitude envelope in a similar way to have that little bit of attack. Just go with it. It just sounded weird without it. I think this makes it a little bit more sort of fluid throughout the different envelopes in the synth. And then after that, I just have a little bit of vibrato on there, just to give it a little bit more kind of character. And then I turn on this Unison. I didn't do too much, but I put on 4 voices instead of the default 2. And then I put on this delay. And what this delay does, this is actually very interesting. I don't think I've seen this in another synth so far. I'm sure there's a million out there that do this, but I'm just very incompetent perhaps. But yeah, like what this delay does is essentially when you have the Unison on, it basically makes each of these 4 voices play 23 milliseconds after the last one. So you don't hear it much right now with this attack, but it's essentially creating like this cluster of synths that goes like whoa, 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 whoa. And you just get this nice effect that I really like. That's that. As far as processing goes, it's pretty simple. I'll show you without the processing. It's really mostly in the synth, but I do have this echo on here with this clip slap analog preset, which I like a lot. But what I did with it was, I'll show you. If you put it on by default, it has like this volume boost and some noise playing that are kind of obnoxious and don't really work a lot of the time. So what I did was I just went to the input and turned it back down to the default setting. And then I went to the noise and turned that off. And there you go. It's just a straightforward echo. After that, there's just some reverb, just for space. And then I have it sidechained to the kick, just like the bass. Really nothing too crazy there. After that, I'll show you this little extra pad layer I made. So you may have picked up on this in the intro. But basically all it is just this little pad that I put together. I think it sounds pretty good over top of the bass notes, like harmonically. And it really helps that chord progression, like, carry on, I think. And also, like, without it, it just didn't really have enough elements in this mix, I felt like. It just was kind of thin, or kind of empty, but with this, it just kind of fills in the spaces a little bit. So what this is it is just this analog preset I made. It's just a square wave filter with no envelope, low pass. I just took off a little bit of the high end. I didn't want to roll off too much because, like, I don't know, I didn't want it to be too sine wavy. I wanted it to still have some kind of square, sort of, like, flavor. And then I just set the amplitude envelope like this, just so it's just one long note. And yeah, that's it for inside of analog. After that, I put on this clip slap analog preset again, and did the same thing, turn off the noise and put the input back to normal. Put on some reverb, and a sidechain into the kick, and that's really that sound. I mean, it's just a simple little layer to sort of go in the background and play off of everything. Now the last sort of synth-ish layer I'll talk about is this vocal stab. What this is it's a little vocal one-shot. I'll show you on its own. Just simple like that. It just sort of gives like, I feel like having this just sort of gives the whole thing a little bit more rhythm, because these are some very rhythmic elements like this. But it makes you bob your head a little bit more when you hear it, when you have this element. And all this is, again, it's just this little vocal stab that I had. I just played some notes on it that went with everything. I didn't do anything inside of Simpler with this, I just dropped it in. I do have, again, another clip slap analog. I just love the way that sounds. Like, it does give it, like, a nice sort of, like, warmth. And then I have another reverb, and then a sidechain to the kick. So the synths are really pretty simple. It's just about all of them coming together to make the final product. Now, as far as the drums go, they're pretty simple. I'll play you all of them on their own, or all of them together. So, what they are is, they're this kick, and then a few hi-hats, and then a clap and some percussion. And the kick is pretty simple. It just sounds like this. Similar to the bass. This is just about like letting your kick really breathe, I feel like. Especially with this kind of music where it has like this kind of like organic sort of tinge to everything. It's really, really important to just start with a good kick sample and just let it breathe. Now, I did use a little bit of EQ on this, just some subtractive stuff, because if you listen to the original sample, there's like a little bit of a kind of like bump, like right around there. So I just took it and put the volume all the way down for that, and problem solved. As far as the hi-hat goes, the hi-hat, I've actually never done this on here, but I do use this a lot. So I used Ableton's Max for Live, like, drum synth hi-hat patch. If you have Ableton 10, you should have this because of the whole Max for Live thing. But yeah, it's just this really cool little module. It basically allows you to design your own hi-hats, and I really like it for these sort of like longer ones where they ring out and have a bit more decay, because there's not a lot of good samples that sound like that out there. And so it's nice to just have this to be able to shape it. So yeah, you can pretty much get in and see that. I mean, it's pretty simple. It's just this little like ride kind of sound on the upbeats. As far as the clap goes, same thing. You just want to sort of find like a good clap sample and really just let it breathe. With this one, I did put it a little bit before the actual beat, because there's that little thing that I wanted to sort of hit before that. It's subtle, but it does a little bit, I guess. It sounds a little bit more organic. I like to think if you do a lot of subtle things, it'll make the final big thing a lot better. So yeah, and then I just have a little bit of reverb on there. What I did on this reverb was I put the decay time and the size down, so it's just like a quick little like room kind of sound. And there's a low, dry, wet as well. Now, as far as percussion goes, I have the shaker. Pretty simple. It's just a shaker loop that I had. I think I made it like a really long time ago. I don't know. It was just on my hard drive, so I was like, why not? And yeah, with that, I put on a little bit of track delay. So I just have this 12 millisecond track delay just to make it groove a little bit better with the drums. I'll show you without that. If we play all the drums, if I just turn off the track delay on that element, just didn't quite groove as well, and especially with like the bass, I thought it sounded a lot better putting that on. I also did that on the percussion loop, and yeah, really nothing else there. Again, just like a good sample, and I really let it breathe. Now the percussion loop is pretty similar. This is actually something I found in an old project file of mine, like how you can go in Ableton to the like this thing and see all the samples. I had made this in some old project file. And I mostly just wanted to use this to sort of explain like the kind of percussion you're looking for. If you hear this, it's like kind of, it's not necessarily boomy, but it's very like big and sort of like low mids E. If I look at it on like, if we look at it on the spectrum, I'll grab that real quick. You can see it's like a lot happening around like here. And that's the kind of sounds that you want. They really blend well with the kick and bass. And it's just a very good style of percussion for this kind of music, I guess. And yeah, that's really it. The main things are like just letting your synth sounds breathe and making sure your synth sounds good in the synth, rather than once sounding bad in the synth and then having to put a lot of effects on it. And just sort of being a little bit more creative with it, I guess. I mean, not really too much to say. I really feel like this is a pretty straightforward style of music to recreate, and hopefully this video showed you everything you needed to know about how to do that. So that's gonna be it for today, guys. Make sure to let me know what you think in the comments. My voice is falling apart, but make sure also to like and subscribe, and hopefully share this video. And I will see you guys again tomorrow for another video. Also, real quick, get this project file and all the stuff in the description for just $5. Okay, thank you so much, everybody. I will see you guys again tomorrow for another video.